What is going on, you guys? I hope you guys are having a great day, and today I'm going to be talking about Terminator Salvation, the fourth official film in my Terminator review series. So this was actually the first Terminator film, as many people know, to not follow the same formula as the previous three films, but it's also a film that not too many people like, and we will get into that pretty soon. But I will say that I do have a lot of respect for this movie for the fact that it did not follow that formula that the previous films did. You know, Terminator gets sent back in time to kill someone, and then another Terminator gets sent back to help someone to protect them, and then they ended up failing at the end. And so are like, okay, you already did that formula 3 times, you gotta change it up a little bit. So that's one thing I will say positive about this movie is that it does not follow that formula that the previous two films did, and you know what Dark Fate did. But there are quite a bit of issues I do have with this movie. But as far as positives go, I do kind of like Christian Bale's performance as John Connor in this movie. He is kind of a hard ass and really strong hero, and he's definitely better than um, what Nick Stahl did for John Connor in Terminator 3: Rise of the Machines. Now, I didn't hate his performance in that movie, but I did not think that he played a great John Connor. It was probably just the writing that made his character so unlikable in the third movie. But in this movie, he's very tough, he's very hard ass, and he's very intelligent about the Terminators in this film. So that's one positive I'll say about it. Another positive is the new Terminators that we get to see throughout the film. Like, we get to see like a cool snake Terminator. We get a gigantic like skyscraper height Terminator. We get moto Terminators, which are motorcycles. Really, really cool. And that's one thing I do like about the movie as well. There's even some really good action scenes in this movie, and I do think I like the aesthetic of the film as well, to where it looks all gray and dirty and grimy, and it did capture the Judgment Day that we got to see parts of in the first film, and I do think that's one thing that this film does really, really well. But unfortunately, that's where my positives end with Terminator Salvation. Now, I will say that for this film, despite the fact that this movie does change the formula up for the Terminator films, I will say that they did not fully utilize it the right way. Because, for one thing, you don't get too many emotional scenes with John Connor in this movie, like you should, but like there's scenes where he's listening to the tapes. If you remember from the first movie, you know that Sarah Connor was recording tapes for her son before he was born for him to listen to. He's now listening to them in this movie, and that's like the only little hint of emotion that you get from John Connor, because throughout the rest of the movie he's just a typical hard ass brute guy who is just fighting Terminators for most of the time. But they should have done more with it. So that's one thing I will say. Another thing I will say is that I am not typically a fan of the guy that they chose to play Kyle Reese. I don't even remember his name, which is how forgettable he is as the character. So, and even though he is a very well, even though he's very physical in the movie, he does not capture the magic or the heart that Michael Biehn brought to the character in the original movie. So, unfortunately, that's not what we got with this guy. But another thing I will say is that I do kind of like the last act of this movie, where John Connor is fighting off against a CGI Arnold Schwarzenegger, which that on its own is pretty. That on its own is a big red flag, because if you look at the credits, Arnold Schwarzenegger is not even credited in the movie for being in that role, so it's just a CGI version of him, and it's very awkward to look at, and I'm not a big fan of it. And also, I remember as a kid when I watched this movie, even though I did watch it a lot, I never fully watched every single. I never like fully watched the entire movie all the way through, except for like twice, which is pretty sad, because this movie had a lot of potential behind it, and they did not fully utilize it. Now, is this the worst movie? No, it's not. We're going to get to that next, unfortunately. But this movie is still pretty bad in my opinion. Not a big fan of it, but for those of you who do like it or respect it, I can definitely get behind you on that. I can see why you would like it. But unfortunately, Terminator Salvation, for me, is a bad movie. So guys, thank you very much for watching. Look forward to my next review, which will be for Terminator Genesis. Not looking forward to that one. So guys, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys later.